MTEMC. And he graduated from Appalachian State in Boone, North Carolina, with a degree in building science. He has been in the construction and renewable energy industry since 2011 and has been in his present position for 2.5 years. He lives in Nashville with his family, Celia, and their son, Stone, who I believe you said was 12, right, Tim? So that's a very fun age.
Yeah.
Tim, it keeps you busy, I know. Tim, thanks so much, and I will turn it to you.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me. I put together some slides for us to kind of go through. I'll go through them a little quickly. If anybody wants copies of the presentation or any additional information, you can reach out to me directly. I can email them to you. If you say, hey, you just went through it so fast, I couldn't write it down fast enough, just feel free to reach out. You can send me an email, your email in the chat, and I'll be happy to share it with you. But yeah, I'm very passionate about renewables and the earth in general. Originally went to school to build custom homes with energy efficiency in mind. You know, one of the things that was kind of ingrained in me was, you know, reduce, especially in construction. There's a ton of waste in the construction industry. And it's just, Boone, North Carolina, if you don't know, is in the Appalachian Mountains. It's just a beautiful place. I just fell in love with the outdoors there, and you know, wanted to preserve this planet for as long as possible for as many people as possible. So kind of how I got to where I am. You know, the building industry when I graduated in 2009 was very poor, and I had taken some sustainability classes for part of my major, and had a friend suggest that I get into the solar industry, and you know, here I am 6 or 7 years later now, working for a utility, and I help manage all of our renewable programs, work with people like Savannah, Drive Electric Tennessee. I'm on a couple of different committees, and really just want to help you know, our members go solar if they want to do that and put it on their home, or just provide different options and solutions for them. But it all starts, you know, before we get to the solar stuff. Yeah, another thing that I see all the time is, you know, people putting on solar panels that don't need solar panels yet. They might need windows or attic insulation or air sealing. There are so many things, so much lower hanging fruit that people should be grasping at before going and spending all this money on a very expensive solar system. So the first half of my presentation is one I put together for, this was a presentation I did when I was doing energy audits, and it was really aimed for members that either didn't have a lot of money or couldn't spend a lot of money on energy efficiency upgrades. And I focused on habits. We have some really bad habits as human beings, and we're very wasteful, just in natural everyday things that we don't think of. So the first part of my presentation is, again, I'll go through it rather quickly, but stop me if you have any questions. Say, hold on, I want to see that slide, and jot that down. These are just some easy, basic lifestyle habits that is really kind of ground zero for, you know, energy efficiency and reduction in your energy consumption. And as we all know, you know, the less that we use, the less that we're wasting, the less that we're polluting, all those things come as a result of just being mindful about what we're doing. So I'm going to try and share my screen here, and you guys let me know if you can see my screen. Mary, it's saying that I can't share my screen, and I can talk about it too if I can. I love talking about this stuff. So when I push share screen,
you okay now?
I just made you a co-host.
Oh,
Tim,
there we go.
so.
All right, let's see. Can you guys see that? Do you guys see a green slideshow?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're good to go.
thanks.
Okay. All right, good. Well, there's who I am. Just a quick overview. Again, simple tips, lifestyle habits, and I'll focus too on heating and air conditioning. That is the biggest energy consumer in your home and the thing that you should pay the most attention to. Water heater is the second largest power consumer in your home as well. We recommend setting it to 120 degrees. Every water heater's got a little plate on the front that has one screw on it. You can take it off, and there's literally a little thermostat dial in there that you can turn with a Phillips head, and it's going to have how hot you want the setting to. We recommend 120 or lower if you want it. Whatever's comfortable. Again, don't let water run while shaving, brushing teeth, things like that. Try to limit your showers to 5 to 7 minutes. One thing that if you look on your water heater, you'll see at the bottom there's a little spigot that looks like you could connect a hose to it. One thing you're supposed to do is drain it once a year, and this gets all of our water is very harsh. There's a lot of chemicals and minerals in it. Those things literally eat away at the tank itself. You'll see a lot of water heaters in garages that are rusted out or beginning to rust out on the bottom, and they're being eaten from the inside out. Some laundry tips here. I'm sure some of you have seen on shows. I remember seeing it years ago on Good Morning America and stuff like that about, kind of myth busting some things. And, I remember washing clothes with hot water was one of them. You don't have to wash your clothes with hot water. You can use cold water. Try to only do full loads. When you're drying them, make sure you're cleaning that lint trap before every load. Making sure the dryer vent isn't clogged. This is not only something that causes the dryer to use more energy if it's clogged, but it's also a fire hazard. So we really encourage, some of these things I'm going to talk about are kind of out of sight, out of mind. You're not going under your house to look at the dryer vent every year, or draining your water heater every year. But there are companies out there that do all sorts of home maintenance stuff. I use Lee Company for servicing my HVAC company or system. They do everything. They can clean my lint dryer vent. They can drain my water heater. I mean, they can do any of this stuff. So there are companies out there that do it. Dry consecutive loads, do your laundry all at once. And hey, don't forget about those clotheslines. It's old fashioned, but it is something that will help save energy and reduce waste. Some simple things in the kitchen you can do. The first one here is clean coils. What that means is on your refrigerator, typically on the front of your refrigerator on the bottom, you're going to see a set of grills. Those are protecting some what we call coils. And everybody knows that all the dust and all the crumbs love to go right underneath that refrigerator in the front. Getting down there with a vacuum or something to just clean that debris out of there will help keep your refrigerator running strong. Set the temperature for the fridge to 34 to 37, freezer 0 to 5. Most fridges and freezers have got, just turn dials, usually in the back or in the front somewhere, or up in the corner. Some of them are digital now, but some of them even have the little spin dials. This next one is also very important. I used to see this all the time going to do energy audits. And, what do people do with the old fridge when they get a new one? They put it in the garage as a drink fridge or an overflow fridge. And then, they don't keep it stocked. So what I mean by that is the less that you have in the fridge, the harder that fridge has to work to keep it cool, because there's now more space. There's more volume in there to keep it running. That compressor is going to be kicking on more. So if you've got one Gatorade out in the fridge outside, or one can of Coke, unplug it, donate it, give it away, recycle it. When you're cooking on the range, on the stovetop, use lids. That helps trap the heat. Things will cook faster. And run your dishwasher when it's full. All right, so heating, cooling, and thermostat. This was, where I spent most of my time with our members, just really trying to nip away at their bills and get them as low as possible. Make sure you're changing those air filters every month. Air filters have a rating on them, which is called MERV, MERV. You'll see the nice fancy ones that are $20 for a 3-pack, and they've got Febreze in them, and they're super thick allergen filters. We do not recommend those. The ones that I use at my house and the ones that we recommend are the little dollar filters. You got to change them every month, but the filter itself is much thinner, and that's going to help your heating and cooling system pull that air out of the house through those returns. And I'll show you some pictures of kind of what I'm talking about here soon. But the thicker the filter, the harder your HVAC system is having to work. So yes, it may last you 3 months. But I found when I purchased those types of filters, they typically would only last 45 to 60 days. So I wasn't getting that extra month that they were marketing towards me. And then when I became an energy advisor, the HVAC guys were like, no, you should just be using the cheapest ones you can and change them every month. Little tip you can do is set a reminder in your phone, write the date with a Sharpie on the filter. That's what I do. But don't forget to do that. That's the simplest and easiest way to reduce your heating and cooling system load. So we have, some thermostat settings. Everybody kind of freaks out when they see these. These are just recommendations. Obviously be comfortable, but understand, that comfort comes at a cost. And these again, we recommend 78 in the summer, 68 in the winter. I don't keep mine at 78 or 68. I keep mine at about 74, 75 in the summer and about 70 in the winter. Keep your windows locked. Your windows, most of the newer ones now have got little rubber gaskets around them. And if they're not locked, those gaskets may not be completely compressed. So if you lock them, that's going to ensure that they're as tight as they can possibly be. Do not cover any return grills. So the return grills are the big ones that are on the wall typically, and then your supplies are the little ones on the floor or the ceiling. Do not cover those with furniture, rugs, anything like that. They should always be open. Do not close the little vents on the floor or the ceiling. People think if they close the vent, that's magically stops the air from going to that room. You're really just creating balance issues at that point. Every supply should be open. And if possible, leave your interior doors open during the day and, allow that airflow to work through the home. And then just again, some very simple things here at the end, close your shades and drapes at night to contain heat, open during the day to let that solar heat in and let that help your heating and cooling system. Stuck. Okay. So, kind of touched on the windows and doors being weather stripped. Make sure that that's in good condition, especially the door weather stripping. A lot of times I used to see that cats love to use it for clawing, over time it just gets beat up. You really want to make sure your doors and windows have really tight seals. that helps keep the air and heat inside the home, and it keeps the bad, dusty, nasty air out. Minimize the use of your space heaters. They have a place, but they are very expensive to run. It's basically a toaster with a fan. So, it's not a very efficient way to heat a room. It's not helping. It's typically hurting in terms of energy usage, the cost on your bills. Really try to minimize those. If your heating and cooling system is out and you need heat, that's one thing, but we really don't recommend using those on a daily basis to help with heating the house. Keep the fan in the auto position on your thermostat. Make sure your air filters are pointing in the right directions. They typically have little arrows on them that tell you which way you should insert them. Insulate. A lot of us have, like in my house, which was built in the 50s, has got an old school attic pull down. Some homes have got walk-in attic spaces or little holes cut out in the ceiling. It's very important to make sure that those are weather stripped as well. That's also a door to the outside of the home. And like in my house, the thermostat is directly below the attic access, and the return for the heating and cooling system is right below there. So there's basically a giant 3-4 foot by 2 foot hole in my ceiling right above my thermostat. That's it's insulated and weather stripped now, but most homes do not have that. They make little attic tents. You can buy them on Amazon. Anything you can do. Remember, that's kind of like a door to the outside of the home. So it's important to make sure that's sealed and insulated. And then there's kind of what you could expect on a space heater cost if you ran it for a day for a month. At our rates, it's going to be about $100 a month to operate a space heater. Now, we know people aren't running them 24 hours a day, but even if you cut that number down to 8 hours a day, you're still looking at $30-40 extra on your monthly bills. So try to limit the use of those. This isn't my house, but this is what I was referring to. You can see this gap here because this thing's getting yanked on. Mine's been being yanked on for 50 years now. So it definitely has got some warped edges. The thermostat's right here. The return is here. So this can actually cause your heating and cooling system to work harder as well, because this is where it's registering how warm or cold the house is. So this is where it turns on and off and says, oh, it's getting colder, or oh, it's getting hotter. I need to turn on the air, turn on the heat. So we recommend having this sealed and insulated. So here's an example of some dirty air filters that I've seen in homes. I mean, this one's so backed up, it's literally getting sucked into the ductwork. I mean, it's bending in the middle because that unit is pulling so hard to get air out of that house. And again, this one on the left, just super dirty, but this is what mine look like. They're just like the cardboard filter. This is usually green or blue. This is someone who bought a fancy, 3-month, 90-day filter that is forgotten to change it. Here are just some, again, free or low cost lifestyle habits. Wear warm clothes during the winter instead of bumping up the heat. Use blankets, turning off lights when you're not in the room, unplugging cell phone chargers when you're not using them, TVs, computers. Really try to minimize those in terms of keeping them on when you're not paying attention to them. Try to use hot tap water when you're going to be boiling water. Switch to LED light bulbs, which is pretty standard now. And again, replace any worn or old out weather stripping. This is a program, I talked with Mary about this before the presentation. We last year, we're in the second year of this program. It's called the TVA Home Uplift Program. If you guys want more information on this, I'm happy to provide it. Or again, if you want the slide, let me know. This is a program for low-income families that are struggling with an energy burden, and they just literally cannot afford to upgrade their homes, ductwork, heating and cooling system, lighting, insulation. This is a grant program that is paid for through Middle Tennessee Electric and TVA. So the member will pay nothing if they qualify for these upgrades. TVA really kind of handles the majority of this. We can accept applications, but it's a rigorous screening process. But if you know somebody that is struggling, from a financial perspective, and they don't know where to turn, or they need some help, please contact me, get this information. I want to say last year, I think TVA and Middle Tennessee Electric, I want to say it was over $100,000 worth of upgrades that we made to homes in our service area. Each home averages about $8,000 worth of upgrades. So this can be windows, heating and cooling systems, water heaters. I mean, contractors come in before and measure the efficiency of the home, then they do it afterwards. I mean, it is a very comprehensive program that really can benefit people, and not everyone knows about it. We do our best with marketing, but we've got a huge service area. We've got people that their first thought may not be to go to the electric company for help. They a lot of people just don't know, or just don't think to call us first. So we're really excited about this, and hopefully it'll be continued for years to come. So let's see here. I can get the next one. Oh, so we'll move into some solar stuff here. Don't worry about all this. This is kind of just some common terms that I use pretty frequently. Again, this is kind of a combination of two different presentations, but I'll kind of get into this in the next slide, which is going to visually show you this one. So this is kind of a typical solar installation that we see on our grid. We've obviously got the big, beautiful sun up there that we are taking for granted and no one's paying attention to, and we really should be harnessing it every day, but we're not. We've got our solar panels. You've got an inverter, which is converting DC to AC power. Most homes now have battery storage, and then your load center is your breaker panel. So you can kind of see there through the flow, the sun's coming down, it's hitting the panels, it's being converted so that your house can use it, and then it's just going into your breaker panel, powering your loads. Doesn't power specific loads. It just feels where there's energy needed, and it pushes it there. If you produce more than you need, it can go to the grid, but most people try to consume it in their home and not sell it to the grid. They just aren't paid very much by TVA. So some things that I try to communicate to our members and really get them to think about is, first, everything I just talked about, all these lifestyle habits, these energy efficiency things that are overlooked. Solar is awesome. It's visually, you can see it, you can monitor it on an app, you can directly see the impact on your electric bill. Not so much with ductwork or attic insulation. These are not very fancy, cool, toys that you can kind of monitor and keep an eye on your smartphone, or logging into the monitoring system online. But they're critical to building an efficient solar system. So we really try to make sure people have done those things first. And the reason being is if your house isn't efficient, you're going to have to build a bigger solar system to power it because you're using more energy. Now, if you can reduce how much energy you need, you can reduce how much solar and storage you need to install. So we kind of root it back to that to begin with. Now, let's say it's a brand new house and everything's, no attic insulations needed, brand new HVAC, all that stuff. We like to look at the roof on a Google satellite image. Just on Google Maps, we kind of check out roof spaces that may or may not work. Typically, the amount of roof space or ground space is going to determine how much electricity you're going to save. Most of the time, your roof is not going to be able to support how much power you need. Your solar is going to generate electricity for, on average, about 6 hours a day. So what about the other 18? You'd have to have a massive solar system to meet 100% of your home's needs. But this is some stuff we do for our members. I'll get to that program at the end, but it is a new-ish program again within the last year. It's a free consultation service. I do this personally. If you call in and you say, hey, I'm thinking about going solar, there's a lot of marketing right now around solar. It's commercials on TV, ads on Facebook, ads on Instagram, Twitter. I mean, it's everywhere right now. Zero down, get paid for your electricity, stop paying the big ugly utility. That's part of it. But there's also this other part, of do you even have the right house? Is your home energy efficient? What are your expectations? Why do you want to do it? So we kind of go through this with our members, and it's free. It doesn't cost anything. These are just some, again, things that we go over during this evaluation. There are things that a lot of people, the sales guys are really good. They talk a lot about, oh, this is going to last you 25 years and your power bill is going to go from 150 to 20 bucks a month and you'll never have to do anything to it, which is not true. You become a little power plant when you put one of these in. And there are things other than the utility here, homeowners insurance. You put something that costs $50,000, $60,000 on your roof. Speaking of storms tomorrow, what if it gets hit by lightning or ripped off the roof by a tornado? You want to make sure that it's insured. So some insurance companies charge extra for that. So there are things like that, as well as talking with a tax advisor about the tax incentives available. But we also require state electrical inspections. Permits are required. These, again, are things that some people don't think about on the front end, or they don't know. They just don't know because it's still so new. So here's one that I went to that is not a professional installation. This is a fire hazard. And this is, I show this picture in almost every presentation because it really shows how dangerous it can be if you try to do this yourself or you get somebody who doesn't know what they're doing. I mean, this guy's got all this electrical equipment mounted on wood. I mean, talk about a fire hazard. None of his wiring is in conduit. There's DC and AC power, just coming down both sides of that. This is super dangerous. And this guy just, had it in his barn. It was no big deal. Just like it was, safe. I mean, this just looks like a bomb or something. Looks crazy. There was his panels on the roof that were not in any sort of conduit. The sun is going to eat those wires up. It's going to burn them right up. I mean, they're sitting up there on a 120, 130 degree roof. So when we're encouraging our members to do this, we always recommend that they get a professional to do it. There are so many things, permits, inspections, licenses that are needed. warranty and workmanship claims that you can rely on, maintenance calls. You do this yourself or you get someone who's doing it on the side. They don't have these things, and it can be dangerous. We're not just trying to protect us. We try to protect our members as well. So here, that's a professional installation. As you can see the difference. You've got metal conduit coming down the side, no exposed wires, racking. Just this is what we want to see. These are the types of installations we promote. These are super beneficial to the grid. They're super beneficial to the member, the environment. I mean, this is what we want to promote as the utility if you're going to do it yourself. That's what
And
it should
this is so interesting. I know we could talk about steps to doing this all night. I know we have some questions for you that we'll take at the end after Savannah's, but I'll just give you a little preview because I know you can't see the chat. And some of these things are great that I had no idea of, and other folks have said that too. But we also have had questions, what if I'm in a building where I can't control my thermostat or I can't control my water heater, et cetera. So if you will think about that, and we'll come back to you at the end in our question and answer period. But thank you so much. And this is so interesting. And I'm hoping that we can post your presentation on our website. Corey, do you think that is a possibility as well? And then folks can have access to it and call you as they need to. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Savannah Robertson is our next speaker. She is an East Tennessee native. She attended University of Tennessee at Chattanooga, where she graduated with a bachelor's in education, and she actually taught in Rutherford County at Rockvale Middle, I think. Rockvale, right, Savannah? Taught mathematics and algebra and coached cross country for a few years. She's a yoga instructor. She's has a certification in social marketing. She previously managed Smart Trips, which is a federally funded program that encourages sustainable transportation. And now she is the Drive Electric Tennessee coordinator and works with East Tennessee Clean Fuels. So Savannah, thank you for joining us, and I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, thank you, first of all, for having me. And I'm sorry that this couldn't be in person. I was trying my best to make it work, but we have an executive committee meeting tomorrow that I couldn't swing it. So, but I want to thank you all again for having me. It kind of feels like coming home in a sense. I loved teaching at Rockvale. It was a phenomenal school system. If you have any friends that live close to that area or kind of on the fringe, like, please push them to go to that school system. It's amazing. There's a lot of great teachers there. But as Mary Catherine said, my name is Savannah Robertson. I am the Drive Electric Tennessee coordinator. And over the next 20 minutes, I am going to tell you a little bit about Drive Electric Tennessee, which is a program of East Tennessee Clean Fuels. So here you'll find just a brief overview of what Drive Electric Tennessee is. And I'm going to pause my video just for quality. Hang on just a second. We're just not going to play the video. Can y'all still hear me okay? Okay, perfect. So you'll just see here, this is the table of contents just to give you a brief overview of what I'll be covering. I'll explain a little bit about us, our working groups. Mary Catherine said that you all might be looking for ways to get involved in Drive Electric Tennessee. We do have some grassroots initiatives and we also have statewide initiatives that you can get involved in, and I'll talk about that briefly throughout the presentation. One of those working groups being policies and programs. I might be generalizing a little bit, but I was thinking based on the audience that was going to be here, y'all might be a little bit more interested in the policies and programs side of EVs. I'll also touch on becoming a member, joining a chapter, or hosting an event should you want to, again, kind of go deeper into those grassroots initiatives. And then I will touch on the EVs for All Act. That is still, it's on the agenda right now, hasn't quite passed the House yet, but I'll touch on that later towards the end of the presentation. And then give a shout out to our sponsors. So who are we exactly? Being Drive Electric Tennessee, we are a core team made up of stakeholders from organizations such as Tennessee Valley Authority, the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation, the University of Tennessee's Institute for a Secure and Sustainable Environment. And our core team makes up the executive committee, which helps to manage our 3 working groups, which I will talk about on the next slide. And so to give you a little bit more context too, Drive Electric Tennessee is a program that is housed within East Tennessee Clean Fuels. We have a parent program that is Drive Electric USA. So there are several other states that are similar to Drive Electric Tennessee that have their own initiatives. So, you know, say, you get involved in the Tennessee program here, you fall in love with it, you can move to Drive Electric, you can move to Alabama, and there's a Drive Electric Alabama program. So, and gonna, I guess, send kudos to our team, but we are a prime for Drive Electric USA, meaning we kind of serve, our program at Drive Electric Tennessee serves as a mentor to those other states that are trying to get their Drive Electric program initiated. So very proud in that regard. But so we have, as a program, we have an initiative to get at least 200,000 EVs on the road by 2028. And when we say EVs, we mean light duty. So one of the biggest contributors to air pollution is transportation. So the particular, like when we, my background is in science, taught biology and algebra 1 and that type of stuff. So, and then started to dive a little bit deeper into sustainability. But one of the things that you look at in air quality is particulate matter 2.5. And that is one thing that is, it's a byproduct of transportation and the exhaust fumes that come off of cars. So if you're thinking about trying to make your footprint, your footprint a little bit smaller, your impact a little bit lesser, on your environment, one of the places that you can change, really make the biggest difference is how you travel. So converting over to electric vehicles is one of those ways. There are other ways, you could choose to ride your bike or you could choose to walk, but we do live in a very car-heavy, car-dependent society. So, EVs, especially in Rutherford County, is just kind of your way to go as far as transportation, sustainable transportation goes. So last little piece here, it's asking how do we accomplish this? Again, we've got working groups, we have statewide chapters that we're trying to launch, including one in your area. We also do receive fiscal support from projects. Like I currently work on a couple of projects with Tennessee Tech University, and we also work with the Tennessee Department of Transportation's Long Range Planning Division. So the work that we do on those projects also help to fund the initiatives that we do here, and then memberships as well. So with that being said, we do have 3 working groups, and these are, again, just ways that you can get involved in Drive Electric Tennessee. I would highly suggest joining one of these groups if you're wanting to meet people that are kind of like-minded, that are interested in EVs, or interested in how the streets are connected. How do EVs communicate with one another? There's a working group that focuses on each of these types of topics. So the first one being infrastructure. You cannot get from point A to point B if you do not have a connector. So one of the things that this working group tackles is, where do we put the chargers? How did the chargers look? Do we model it similarly after gasoline pumps? If you're talking about behavior change, how can we eliminate as many barriers as possible on the roads to get these people to want to convert over to electric vehicles? The awareness group, so this one speaks to my education heart. It just is broadening people's awareness, both the public or to government, to whoever. We had a massive visibility campaign that helped us, that the awareness working group designed for us to help grow our digital footprint, and boy, did it grow it. I mean, we've got a bi-weekly newsletter that doubled in subscriptions. We also have several other initiatives. There was an EV signage project that was designed within the awareness group that we are almost finished with. We need it approved by the executive committee, but that will be on our website here in the coming weeks. But if you kind of want to get involved in a group that's more like getting your hands dirty, you're working on projects, you've got deliverables per se. Awareness is kind of your group to join. Policies and programs. So this is a working group that meets quarterly. Infrastructure and awareness meet monthly. Policies and programs, on the other hand, meets quarterly. So this is kind of more of an informative, educational type working group where, if you just kind of want to sit and listen, you don't necessarily want a ton of work, like you're already busy as it is with your own life, but you kind of want to be in the know of the policies that are coming to table, both on the local and the state, federal level. Then this is kind of the working group to join, because Alexa Boytek, who works with TDEC, she is one of the co-chairs, and she does an excellent job of providing those updates. And then just to dive in again, might have been insinuating a little bit, but I'm happy to take any questions towards the end of the presentation. But I thought that you all might be a little bit more interested in the policies and programs working group. So the policies and programs working group is one that is currently developing an interactive video content series on how to design EV specific policies and goals for Tennessee city officials and local government that they can take once they're elected into office, that they can take and enact in their district. So say someone, a lot of mayors, this is just kind of like your plug and chug. So that's kind of the thought behind this project. It's really, really neat. They're in the process of recording the videos right now. It took us a while to kind of get the contract together, but we do have 7 chapters of it. I'm happy to dive deeper into this project if you want to hear more about it. But the playbook, we will be filming a chapter in Knoxville, Tennessee. I think that they're doing one in Murfreesboro. Don't quote me on it. I know it's definitely, there's going to be one in Nashville, but it's basically just going to be a video series that, say a mayor gets elected, he's got a green city council that he's got to manage. Like he wants to push all these sustainability initiatives during his campaign or while he's in office, but he doesn't necessarily know how. He can take this playbook and show it to his fleets, show it to his his police units, and kind of get them going as far as thinking more sustainably. So that's something that you can get involved in. Again, you can just kind of hear updates about this project as it's going. We should have the video series complete by the end of this year, and then we'll be able to push it to local officials by the beginning of 2023. And then another project that we are working on, it's been tabled a little bit, so maybe we'll pick it back up once the local action playbook gets wrapped up. But it's a workplace charging best practices guide. So I can't remember the term that a lot of people use. I think it's not slugging. But one thing that people will do is they'll plug in their car to charge, and then they'll just kind of leave it there. So then if a business only dedicates 2 parking spots for electric charging, if that person leaves their car there for 8 hours, then there's, just 1 spot that's available for the public to use. So it's not necessarily that person's bad person. They just need to learn proper etiquette. So that's what this guide is serving as. It's just the best practices of like, what should your signage look like? How should you paint your parking spots? The costs that are associated with that. You as an EV driver, how should you park? Should you, if you're in a this is what the handicap spot looks like. There's a lot of like smaller details that kind of go into that project, but that should be released, I think, in summer of 2023. So we do have a group that's working on that. Again, if you would like to get involved, that is something. If you want to work on this project, if that's a passion for you, then by all means, please join. You can join for free. So that kind of segues into becoming a member. We have two different types of opportunities for people to become members. Again, we are a nonprofit, so this is a piece where you're supporting us fiscally to continue the work that we're doing. So there are two different types. Tonight, I'm mainly going to focus on the individual memberships. But we do have an organizational membership. So say like your workplace is in the process of getting LEED certified, then it might be a benefit to them to join Drive Electric Tennessee through a membership. But you can join as an individual member, and with your membership, you will be able to. You can still volunteer in the working groups regardless. But you can meet others that are in the DET community. Again, you can meet some of the stakeholders that come into play in our organization. You have access to engaging DET content. So I mentioned that biweekly newsletter that we have. You get that in your inbox every other week, and that's got information on acts, on initiatives. We have like MTE also advertises on the newsletter, so you can get information about MTE. There are, let's see. Oh, and also when you become a member, you'll get an annual membership swag pack. So you'll get a little box that comes in the mail once you've paid for your membership. It's really cute. Our Ainsley, our communications coordinator, puts it together. But you'll get a swag pack from Ainsley in the mail. And it's just a lot of fun. It'll have stickers and keychains, might even have a t-shirt in there, but yeah. And then application process. So just fiscally, for those of you that are worried about it, your fiscal donations and your memberships are all maintained and monitored by the East Tennessee Clean Fuels Coalition. So again, happy to kind of explain that structure a little bit more if needed, but and then if for those of you that would like the presentation after this, I can share this as well, but here is a link towards the bottom of the slide where you can register to become a member. So a couple of different ways, again, that you can get involved in your community. So one of the big things that we are focusing on as an organization is forming chapters across the state. So the map that's over on the left of the screen, these are just areas that we've identified as, this would be an ideal area for a chapter. So we kind of have Nashville, Murfreesboro, Rutherford County, a little bit of Williamson County lumped into one. But now that we're looking at things, I think Murfreesboro would make sense that Murfreesboro had their own chapter and Nashville has their own. They're two own different communities, like you all should just have your own. So that's one way that you can get involved. There is not currently a Rutherford County or Murfreesboro chapter. We have a couple of people, Tim, I might be calling you later, but we have a couple of people that have voiced that they're interested in getting involved. So again, just another place that you can get involved in your community and meet like-minded people. There are two different types of events that we promote as an organization. There is DEED, which is Drive Electric Earth Day. That is in April. So we're very, very busy as an organization during April because it is Earth Month. Earth Day is April 22nd, and there are all kinds of Drive Electric Earth Day events that are going on across our state. I was not able to check this morning to see if there was one going on in your all's area, but if you go to the Drive Electric Tennessee website, on the events tab, you can see the electric vehicle events that are going on in the community. And I can share that in the chat towards the end of the presentation. Secondly, the other event that we promote is in September, which is National Drive Electric Week. There will be, to my knowledge, there is going to be a pretty big event that's going to be going on in Nashville. I can share that with you all as needed. And then if you decide to join our newsletter, you can get updates on that there as well. I wanted to share with you all that there is, so that like as far as policy goes, there's not a lot of insight in electric vehicles, and that's really where the voice of the public kind of needs to come into play, in my opinion, at least. There's an EVs for All Act that is, so it just got presented to the House this past month. It needs to pass through the House, and then from the House, pass through Senate, pass through the President, and then become a law. So this is just something I would recommend your organization keeping an eye out for. There's not a lot. I wanted to link a couple of articles if there were some, but there's just not a lot out on the news about it right now, partially because the representatives of Tennessee have not supported this act yet. So I think once they do, then maybe they will, then it'll start hitting our local news channels. But basically the EVs for All Act is a grant program to facilitate electric vehicle sharing services operated at public housing projects and for other purposes. So what that means is there's basically going to be a couple of cars that are electric vehicles that people in those housing areas might necessarily be able to afford, but they can all share and use. So and that's where the sharing services comes into play. They can rent it, they can rent the EV for a certain amount of time. So you're still improving the air quality in that area, but and then you're also giving them access to a vehicle that they wouldn't actually be able to support, or that they wouldn't be able to afford normally. So just again, this is very, very new. They just brought it up last month. So lots of updates to come from that. And then lastly, just want to give a shout out to our sponsors. We would not be where we are today if it were not for their financial support and for the, I guess, mentorship that they give us as well. So thank you, MTE being one of them. Thank you, Tim. We appreciate you guys and the insight that you give us. We've spent a lot of time on the phone with Philip Lim, and he's a crock of wisdom. So love working with you guys. And then contact information should you need it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Savannah. And again, if you don't mind, we'll post your presentation online as well. I'd like to open it for questions now. And I know I saw a few things in the chat. I think after I let Amanda ask Tim her question from him, I'd love to ask Savannah a little more about when I've been talking to folks about this program. I've heard time and again people say, oh, but I travel so much. Why is an EV practical for me? I can only use it in the city. So I'd love for you to respond to that briefly, but I'm going to let some other folks ask Tim some questions, and then we'll have a conversation.
Sure. Let me see here. So let me just check the chat here. Yeah, so the rental question, definitely is challenging. We've had renters that can even control their own thermostat, but the unit itself doesn't get serviced, right? And that's not their responsibility to have it serviced, but they're paying the bill because maybe the auxiliary heat is running, or maybe it's a super old system and it's not efficient anymore. It's that's a very challenging position to be in, and we don't necessarily have a great answer for it. There's only so much we can do. Now, again, there are times and scenarios where there's no other option, and space heaters and electric blankets, like, they just have to be used. It gets challenging when we get to the landlord discussion, because it's a lot of times people just don't have control. They may have, like I said, control of the thermostat, but maybe they don't have control of the servicing of the unit, or maybe they don't have central heating and air. Those are challenging positions for us as the energy advisor, to confront, because we really have to, confront the landlord, and that's kind of getting out of our, I don't know how to word it. It's kind of getting out of what we're allowed to do. Now, one thing we can do is provide data. So, a lot of times people will call in, and I used to do high bill calls, and we get thousands of them every year. And a lot of times we can see through the data on your electric bill, that meter is recording how much energy you use every 5 minutes. So we have 5-minute data that we can get at that granular. We usually use hourly, but I could typically tell people, hey, what happened on January 2nd at 12 p.m. because your usage tripled and it's been stuck. Something's wrong. And as a renter, you may not have control over, getting that AC unit serviced, and that data may help you prove a point to say, hey, look, Mr. Landlord, this isn't my fault. I'm not, there's a leak something's stuck, something's broken, maybe there's a leak and it needs a charge. So, if there's something like, if you're in that position, where you don't have, the ability to, maintain a piece of equipment, certainly reach out to us, and maybe there's something we can do to help. If you don't have central heat and air, and you have to rely on space heaters and blankets, I mean, that's just where we are in that situation. And there's not a lot we can do at that point. Except maybe provide some other lifestyle tips and tricks to try to, keep the energy usage as low as possible.
All right.
Thank
Tough
you.
though.
Yeah.
That's a tough situation to be in.
Well, thanks. And I hope that's helpful to some of the participants, to all of us. Madeline Harris, you had your hand raised. Would you like to ask a question?
Am I frozen?
Nope, I can hear you.
An excellent presentation. I learned so much. I have about 3 questions on your filters. I have a biannual checkup on my heat and air system every year. I have a contract out automatically and check it. And I feel like it's a highly recommended company. I mean, they have a great reputation, but I had what you call the cheap filters in my system.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that's wrong, these cheap ones, you need to get rid of those. And recommended the thick filter. And I've been using those ever since, and I threw away all my cheap ones. I'm going to go back, start using the cheap ones, because your explanation was very, it made sense.
Yeah.
And I really on that. Also, I have that pull down type attic, and you would picture that gap,
Yes, ma'am.
Talked about a window strip. What kind of window strip? Do you just go like the Lowe's or Home Depot and put certain strip, recommend a certain?
Yeah. What I did on mine was if you go to Lowe's or Home Depot, they'll have a roll of it, and it's basically it's like you can get them in different widths, but it's generally like a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch wide, and it's going to be about 1/8 of an inch high, and it's just going to be like a roll of tape with one side of it sticky, and you unroll it, you measure how long the piece of wood is that you need to weather strip, and you just cut it, and then you just slide it right on. It's very easy to do. It will break down over time. You know, I go up and down my attic a couple of times a year, and I've noticed that you can see it was white when I put it on, and it's now like a brownish gray color because of all the dust and dirt that it's catching. So, you know, it does need to be replaced probably every 2-3 years, but it's like $2 or $3, you know, to buy one of those little rolls of foam. It's super cheap.
And it's, you put that sticky part on the exterior, right?
No, you'll pull the door down, and then you'll put it on the interior. You'll put the sticky side down on the interior of the door.
All right. And one last question I have for you. You're talking about the installation. What type do you recommend, or do you recommend a company, any particular company that can come and change that? Because I know that makes a big difference.
Yeah, you know, the recommended amount of insulation is 14 inches. Most of our homes, especially mine, I need mine done bad. They typically have 5 to 6 inches. It's all done based on building codes. So the older the house, typically the worse the building codes are. And our building codes now are still really bad. It's kind of like our building codes in terms of energy efficiency is kind of like getting a D on a test. It's just enough to get by and meet you know, these builders meet the bare requirements. But to answer your question, you know, most HVAC contractors, your heating and cooling contractors, some of them do it. If they don't do it, they generally have guys that they've partnered with that do. There's a company called 31W, I believe, that is an attic insulation company. I see their trucks around a lot. There's kind of a more high performance company out of Nashville called E3 Innovate. They do more of the building science stuff, but they do attic insulation if that's something you just want to do. But you know, insulation is so overlooked, and yeah, it's something that almost every home I went into needed.
I won't take up all the time, so I'll let someone else ask you some questions. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Right.
I saw one come in the chat here. You know, a typical, just briefly, a high level solar installation, probably going to take about 6 to 8 months from the time you sign on the dotted line with a contractor to the time we're out there doing the final safety inspection. Just depends on the contractor, the lead time, the time of the year. And I will mention lastly, just real quick, we are going to be at Earth Day on the square in Murfreesboro, April 23rd, 10 to 2. I didn't get into it much tonight, and I'm kind of regretting it, but we do have several other program offerings that revolve around renewables that don't require you to install a system. They're very flexible month-to-month programs. I will be there. We've got a huge booth. Several of our board members and senior leadership team are going to be there as well, mingling. One of their goals this year is to get out into the community. The board and the senior leadership team of Middle Tennessee Electric, they want to be in the community more, and they want to be more accessible. So April 23rd, Square, Murfreesboro. I'll be there with several of our other energy advisors. We'll be, you know, having all sorts of giveaways, stuff like that. It's gonna be fun. So come on out and see us.
Great. Thanks, Tim. It's great to have that event back after the pandemic.
Yeah, we're
Savannah,
excited.
yeah, for sure. Savannah, you probably can see this question in the chat talking about cities as member organizations. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, so the city of Knoxville is one that is a city that's involved with us because they have an Office of Sustainability. So we work very closely with their Office of Sustainability. I cannot remember off the top of my head if Murfreesboro has one or not, but that might be, if you do have one, that would be a way, that an easy path for you to
I
get
don't
go.
think we do. Does anyone else know?
Well, maybe we can start one.
No, we have a city council person on with us right now, so I think that would be a lovely thing to consider. So anyway, yeah, I think that's and could be something the league itself could somehow follow up with and encourage at least, or ask about.
Well, and I know that there's the Mayor's Climate Council. So Mayor O'Hara, like I'm going to speak about Knoxville a lot just because I've been living in Knoxville for the last 6 years. But Mayor O'Hara joined the Climate Council, and one of the primary focus, like each of the meetings had a focus on them, and they had panelists that were presenting information about, like for the transportation sector, the director of the Knoxville Transportation Planning Organization gave a presentation on the emissions. So if you have an Office of Sustainability, then you have someone that's working 300, well, not 365 days a year, but the majority of the year looking at what Murfreesboro and Rutherford County's air quality looks like. So I would either recommend, like you said, you don't have an Office of Sustainability. I mean, maybe look at some like the Climate Council initiatives and see, like, you had mentioned in the chat that you might want to run eventually. So I can't speak on the steps it takes to launch a Climate Council, but yeah, I would say that'd be interesting to look into.
Thanks. Are there other questions? I know we're running up against our typical time frame. Well, if not, I want to thank our speakers again. I do want to mention, we'll put those presentations on the website, and we'll put some very specific action steps if you'd like to follow up on those. As Tim mentioned, Earth Day was on my list of announcements. It's coming up on Saturday, the 23rd at 10 a.m. on the square. Also in Murfreesboro, there is during April to observe Earth Day, there's a water conservation push. So you can go online, and I'll send that link as well, and we'll get that on the website. You can take the water conservation pledge. You can observe Water Week, which is next week. You can, there are all kinds of events around that. So if you are interested in joining us in our local focus, that's one place to start. In other announcements, I'd like to remind everyone that the League is partnering with United Way and going to be at the Lunch and Learn, which is April 22nd from 11:30 to 1 p.m. at the Rutherford County Chamber offices. The topic will center around early education, and parts of the documentary Starting at Zero will be shown, and then a panel discussion with 3 local educators and community members will take place. You did need to register. You can find the link on our league website as well, which is lwvrutherford.org. We mentioned quite a bit about Vote 411 earlier. We can go back to that shortly, but I did, before we talk about that again, I wanted to invite everyone to our next membership meeting, which will be Tuesday, May 12th at 6:30. It is our planning meeting, and it's obviously anybody can come. You don't have to be a member yet. We'd love to see you. This year, we're going to make it a little more festive since it's our first time to be together in a long, long time. We'll have a little taco bar. It'll be tacos and topics all together. And we'd like to launch our year of Vote Local, Live Local. And we'd love your ideas for making programs that will address those very specific ideas. This idea of one thing we can control is more of our community. So I hope you'll join us for that. Again, information will be forthcoming on that. Megan, Leslie, is there anything you want to say about, anything else you want to say about Vote 411?
I think we covered it.
All righty. Well, thank you so much. And again, thank you so much, Savannah and Tim, for your time. We will, as I say, be putting your presentations on the website, and folks may be contacting you for information. I'm sure a very accessible action step from Savannah's presentation would be to join a working group. And that is something that you can follow the link in her presentation and do. So thank you so much. Any other announcements? All right. Well, I hope everyone has a great rest of the week, and I look forward to seeing you on May 12th. Thanks again, Tim and Savannah.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good night.